Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Two Tutors Talking. Triple T when I get famous. All right, my name is Audrey Codner Gibson over at ACG Math Tutoring, and I just want to bring you guys in. And of course, one day we had a slight emergency, so Miss Veronica is not going to be here today. So you are stuck with me. So for today's topic, and I know it kind of sounds like I'm trying to romanticize everything. Hey, one of my former students is here. Just trying to romanticize. It's almost like when you're bringing in a tutor, parents, students, even teachers with recommendations. When you're bringing someone in, it's like you're bringing another person into the party. You're bringing another person that you should be writing about in those Christmas letters. You are basically building another relationship with a perfect stranger to help your child break down concepts so they can break down barriers so they can move forward. So when I'm talking about relationships, it's not anything that's going on that permanent line where you're just like, no, we're not doing that. It's more so like a connection. It's like that other person that's there to kind of help with the process when a parent just can't be there. Parents, you can't be there for every single solitary thing, especially as they get older and especially if you have multiple children. You just can't be. Like, think about like the first day of school or those back to school sessions. Um, you have like small kids, you have one that's older, and then you're trying to make the decision of like, all right, which school should I go to? Because it always seems like back to school night always happens on the same day. Make it make sense. So, what I'm trying to say is when you're bringing in tutors, you really want to make sure that they're the right fit for your child. And the same way, tutors, you want to make sure that that child is or that student is the right fit for you. It is not set in stone. So when I did my live last night, that actually came up for a little bit. When you're sitting here talking, hey, how you doing? When you're sitting here and you're making that decision, you're really building a connection. You're building a relationship. So, when, let's say, from a parent's perspective, you want to make sure that one, this person does have an idea of what they're doing. So, you can look on their website if they do have a little bit interest in, okay, I'll get you in a second. When they have like a little bit of interest in, they'll just come on in and just make sure that they are giving you something in great detail. Oops. All this other stuff. Let's see. I'm gonna get you in a moment. Okay, so we have like quality tutoring. Yes, definitely. So I did send a request. Hopefully it went to you. So you're saying that trust is important to make the relationship better. Definitely. Because you're trusting yourself, your child, to be with that person as well as expanding in. So, quality tutoring is coming on through. So, we can expand on that with building of trust. Hopefully, they'll be able to get through. But while we wait, are you there? There you are. Well, hello, I think. Hi, how are you? So, what do you tutor? Say again, what are you tutoring? It's like, I think our connection is pretty late. Okay, there might be a delay. Hold on. So, what concept are you tutoring? Okay. Hey, Mark. Hey, Liz. How you doing? So, why is trust in your eyes important? Why do you feel that you, as a tutor, trust is important? Okay. Why? So if you will say, like, when you get a student and you're able to like break down these concepts, and I know it's kind of hard because I'm like on two different things. So some of you guys are probably like, who are you talking to, Audrey? Because I'm on two different screens. But for those on Instagram, you're actually seeing another tutor coming in, and we're just talking about like why is trust really important? Because one of the things as a parent, you don't want just anybody taking your child, or feeding whatever information. You want to make sure it'll be great if they're accredited, if they used to be a teacher. It'll be great if they were just a part of the whole system, understanding how you perform as a parent, as well as how you like advanced yourself, like how you want your child to learn. I know I've gotten a couple of parents that were looking for a Pacific person. They were looking for a female tutor, or they were looking for, let's be real, an African American female tutor. Like all those perspectives need to be taken into account. And sometimes they just want someone to just take care of everything. Or it might be just someone that just needs to just assist for a brief moment here or there. Just wanted to send a couple of Brits out. So when it comes down to from the tutor's perspective, just like he said, trust is still a part of it. Now, one thing, especially as former teachers, we're so used to being the martyr. We're so used to constantly just doing for the kids. Any kid that we get, we're constantly like, yes, these are the kids that we want. But you don't have to take each and every child. If you feel that there is, and this was mentioned last night, that there's a behavioral issue, a kid is cursing at you, I'm sorry. I find that hilarious because I wish a kid would. For those that know me, they were like, yeah, no one's that crazy. Um, but just like constantly turning their TV or their screens off, like you don't see their pictures. Even if they just 1 minute they want to talk to you, like, hey, here's my cat. And you're like, okay, we're trying to do math here, or we're trying to read. And it's cute to do things once in a while, but if they're doing it the whole entire time, you have a decision to make. You can either stay, I like to, and when a kid asks all kinds of crazy, I'll videotape it and I'll send it to the parent and say, this is what I had to deal with during this session. I need for you to correct this. And if you can't correct this, we're going to have to split our ways. You don't have to stay. You don't have to take any disrespect whatsoever. And as much as you don't give disrespect, you don't take disrespect. So that's one thing I definitely want you to take into account when it comes down to when you're looking at a tutoring, when you're making that connection or those relationships. So it's not just content. Yes, trust does take a place into it. Yes, content does take a place to it, but it's also like a respect thing. Like, for instance, in the beginning of this school year, I had a young man that was transitioning from middle school to high school. And especially those transition years are really impactful, right? So he wasn't really doing quite well because 2 years ago, he was home during the pandemic. And then last year, the school kind of did the hybrid model. Some kids could stay home, some kids was at the building. And then this year, we're going to a new school with new teachers, new system. Everything was completely new. And it just seemed like he got thrown into like an advanced class and he got lost because he didn't know, how did I get into this advanced class? Like he's like, I don't know how I got here. And I said, it's okay. But as the first week of school continued on, I see him like 3 times, well, see him 2 times a week. And the start of the following week, I seen a change. Like he wasn't as happy as he usually is, or just kind of like, hi, oh, okay, we're gonna learn something today. He was very withdrawn, very saddened. And I was like, mad automatically. I was like, what's going on? Like, what's happening? And I'm like, so how was your day? He's like, fine. And I'm like, okay, this is not telling me fine. That's one of the reasons, especially a tutor, you need to have the camera on. You don't know what is that person feeling because I need to see expression. So as I was talking to him, and I was like, what's going on? And then we're like, no, I'm fine. We can just go through the lesson. I need to work on this. Okay. So we're working on the lesson. He's, really touching base on it. And then all of a sudden, he just like, I don't want to be here anymore. I'm done. I was like, oh, okay, all right. So we can end the lesson, I guess. That's not your usual self. He's like, I don't want to end the lesson. I'm done. He was talking about killing himself, people. He was thinking about ending it all. I'm like, okay. Started talking to him a little bit. Let's get with the whole breadth of it. Then I said, would it be okay if I call your mom right now and we get on the call together? So called mother. She was at work. She's like, oh, I'm really busy. I'm like, I need for you to stop whatever you're doing right now. Get on the Zoom call now. And she's like, oh, because I usually don't talk to my parents like that. When I was in the school building. But that's another situation. That's why we're not in the building anymore. So, but really got on the phone. She got on the Zoom call. And then slowly but surely, I started telling her what he's been telling me. And then he started talking. And then all three of us are like crying hysterically on the Zoom call. But what if he didn't say that to me during the session? And I know um, there's a lot of what is it, the algorithm, and there's certain things that we can talk about and we can't talk about, but this is something like you don't understand. As a tutor, even as a teacher, I didn't realize how much power I had, because you're so used to people, the powers that be, keep trying to keep you down. Like, no, we just want you to teach this, don't teach anything real life, just keep yourselves here. And now that I'm a tutor, I'm like, okay, let's see what you're working on. What are those concepts that we can talk about? And then let me help you break it down, almost like be a translator to their teacher. But I didn't know I was going to be that person that might save a kid's life. Because after that, I was like, okay, mom's like, I'm on my way. Your father should be there coming home and all this other stuff. And they had a meeting, and then later on they told me, they were like, thank you, because we know he was stressed, but it's a transition, it's something new. We keep telling them, you'll be all right, you'll be fine, you'll be fine. But sometimes they're not fine. They're not gonna, they'll give you small snippets, but like us in life, we we don't know what the snippets are. But the fact that I was there and I noticed a change and we were able to talk it out, did we still learn the lesson? Did we learn things? Yeah. But my thing is, if a kid can't focus on what's happening right now, how can you expect them to be able to learn and process? As we're all sitting here talking about mental health awareness, like it's really happening. Like how much awareness do you need? Like it's out there. Everybody's going through stuff. The pandemic really opened a lot of things up, and our kids are okay. The way they interact with each other is not okay. The way that they interact with authority is not okay. The way that they try to talk to themselves is not okay. But as a tutor, sometimes you are playing that role. I know there's times I've been in IEP meetings to help talk and advocate for my students to say, all right, it's great that you have this, but my child needs this. If you read their IEP, it clearly states boom, 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 boom. So where are the evidence that these kids are getting all this? And it's amazing to me to see the parent in the background, like, and you can see like in his eyes saying, get him, Miss Audrey, get him. And I'm like, And that's what I do. I'm that mama bear that I care about my kids. I really want them to advance and to exceed. But if I don't know what's going on, I can't help them. So that's why when I have my sessions, I ask the child or the parent to send me your notes. I don't want to dictate or deviate from what you're learning or how you're learning in class. I just want to be able to tell you why you're doing that step. So as a parent, you want to have someone that's not only going to just tutor your child, but also to help that child along, to talk that child, to really build up their confidence. Because a lot of times that's usually the barrier. They just lack confidence because they've been probably told over and over again that you're not good at math. Or they probably heard from their parents or from their siblings or some close relative that they do appreciate and love and say that, oh, I am never good at math, so you're probably not going to be good at math either. Or, I don't read that much, so that's okay. I got the videos and movies I can watch. But if we all know, most of the movies only take small parts or snippets of the book. If you read the book is always completely different from the movie. You're like, where did this part come from? So that's why I always like to say, being not a seasoned reader, I wish I was more advanced in my reading, but read the book before you see the movie. Because sometimes you're going to be like, oh, that's why. You know. So when it comes to relationships with like your students, you know your content, but let your personality shine. If you're a type of person that you don't know your personality and you don't have any kind of trust, that relationship is going to fail real quick. If you know that one side is going to be disrespectful, and don't just say, oh, he was disrespectful, he didn't have his camera on, I'm going to drop him today. No. Have a discussion. Have the parent, have the child or the student there, and have those discussions. And it's not hard because everybody wants to cut everybody off right away. But if you say this and they don't adjust, and you're constantly saying, turn your camera on, hey, let's sit down, let's get started, or saw the cat, it's cute, put the cat down. Let's go with our lesson. I appreciate it. These are the things that if you don't, after you have these discussions and it keeps going, then you're going to have a major discussion with the parent. Most of the time, especially elementary, you should have some kind of parental person around, especially. You can't just have the kids just like, oh, just show up willy-nilly, right? So before I get to the next part, if you are viewing this live, go ahead and hit hashtag live. If it is a replay, hit the hashtag replay because, just like I said before, the algorithm. Just to see if we can let this Two Tutors Talking go into something bigger. Okay? So far, if you want to put in the chat, what is something that you notice with your tutoring or something that you never thought of as a parent that you would think would be helpful for your child? I mean, the school year is closing up. All right. Some people got like 2 weeks left. Some people are graduating this week. Some people graduated last week. It all depends on what part of the country that you're in. Right. So, with that being said, I'm hoping that they did well, but there's some people that might be going to summer school. All right. So that means we just have to learn some things. We have to tweak some things. What are those things that they need to tweak? And I know for sure every tutor, every math tutor, and every parent could probably say what they need help with is multiplication. Once they started bringing these lovely things called calculators in to help with division, long division, short division, all of a sudden multiplication started venturing away as well. It's almost like those Montessori skills of like, what does 5 times 4 look like? Those are the things that are missing. A lot of people are doing everything electronically. So now nothing's tactical anymore. Like literally getting 20 beans put in front of your kid. Get 5 Dixie cups or 4 Dixie cups. And you can say to your child, I want you to evenly distribute, okay, these beans into the cups. You should have the same amount of beans in each cup. That's all you do, and let them work. That's Montessori skill set. That skill set that they're also learning at the elementary age. But sometimes it all depends if they were at a school that they had multiple math teachers at one time, or they just basically had a teacher that was like, okay, I'm a sub, let's take a calculator out. There's so many factors that play into it that really caused additional harm, not only during the pandemic gap, but cause additional harm because they didn't get that initial understanding. So that's one activity that if you don't want to take your child to camp or if you don't want to have a big course or anything, and you know your child is struggling with multiplication, you can use beans and cups. I know it sounds crazy, but have them do even and say the word distribution because they're going to see and hear that word quite often as they get older. So that's one activity that you could possibly do, and that's easy. Beans are not as expensive as like, pastas, dry pastas. And plus you can constantly reuse it and all that. And then you just get like the little Dixie cups. Don't get crazy. You don't need to sacrifice the solo cup. Um, we don't want to sacrifice those. So when it comes to building those relationships, you as a parent, when you're looking for a tutor, or if you're hearing about a tutor, ask questions like, how would you break down certain concepts for my child? I don't want my child to struggle with multiplication. How would you address that? Or how could you teach my child learning online? Those are like the main questions. Would you do, if for chance my child was being disruptive? Like, how many strikes does a kid get before you like cut them out? Or something else that you can kind of like look at. But as a tutor, you want to be open. You want to be honest. You definitely want to keep that line of communication. That's on both sides. So if somebody, I know, God forbid, if someone gets sick and need to cancel, what is your cancellation policy as a tutor? What is your realistic cancellation policy? Something that you can attest to that is reasonable, that parents can follow and take it from there. As a parent, what type of communication do you need on a constant, and be realistic? Don't let that tutor give you like a full background and you're not looking at it. What is something that you need to know that your child is actually learning? What kind of feedback that you're going to need? What kind of communication that you're going to need to know that your child is actually advancing or actually moving in that right direction? So, in closing, I know I'm going to close it off a little bit because usually I go off on a tangent, but when it comes to those relationships, you definitely want to keep communication and also trust in that forefront. So anytime that you have any kind of discussions, you have some questions, if you want to be another person on my Two Tutors Talking, please just DM me. I'm Audrey Codner from ACG Math Tutoring. And if you are a math teacher or a math tutor and you would like to basically join up or like a resource place for just math people, I have started a Facebook group. It's called From the Classroom to Online Tutoring. It's just a great place to get some resources, get your questions asked, answered, and if you ever want to progress into something else, because I will be starting a mastermind starting June 18th, and you'll be seeing more publications about that. I will be going live to give more details of like what is included into Mastermind and how it can better help and support you as you go on your journey of becoming a online math tutor. So I am going to sign off. I hope you guys have an amazing day and continue to want to learn. Take care, guys.